Hey, everybody, and we are live with a special edition of Office Hours. This time we've got Gary Steensgard. He is a retired Army recruiting first sergeant, right?
That's correct.
Recruiting company first sergeant that has become, in my mind, an HR leader extraordinaire in the private sector. But we'll get into that more in a little bit. Thanks for joining us, Gary.
Thank you for having me, Mike. I really appreciate it.
Yep. So, before we get into it, I do want to talk to you all about one of our partners. And this partner is Heritage Construction Company in Central Texas. So what's exciting about Heritage is they do the jobs that help people after any kind of a weather event. And so what happens is if there's a weather event and there's damage to roofs, damage to property, or anything like that, there are people come out to the area and give you a free estimate. They'll go climb up on your roof, they'll go check the damage, and they'll give you the data on what was done. And if you're interested in support, they will help to process everything with the insurance companies. They'll bring in the workers. They'll actually make sure everything gets done, processed, and taken care of at no cost directly to you, all through the insurance company. And what's exciting about Heritage is they are a family-owned business. They've been around for a while. They're part of the community, and they are offering SkillBridge internships to our community. So if you're interested in like an account manager, project manager role, you're not really doing cold calling because these are areas that they already have the issues, and you enjoy helping people and being outdoors, I would consider Heritage Construction Company. And you can check out hiremilitary.us. We've got the roles listed there. So Gary, so you are a HR manager at Blue Halo, right?
I am.
What does that mean? What is Blue Halo?
Blue Halo is a defense contractor in several portfolios, but specifically counter UAS, intelligence, products in space as well. I am the HR manager for a specific portfolio, the Armed Forces portfolio. Mm-hmm. So all of our health performance sciences and technology, counter UAS, directed and kinetic energy systems, they all flow. All of those employees are my customers. So. Okay. Their customers is DoD. My customer is our employees.
So so you have what sounds like 3 portfolios that fall under you?
I have programs? 1 portfolio and 3 major portfolios across the company. Is Space and Products, Intel, and Armed Forces. I'm the Armed Forces HR manager, and I partner with the HR managers from the other 2 portfolios plus corporate services.
That's what I was going to ask. So there's 3 HR managers providing direct support to their portfolios and programs.
Yes.
And then there's corporate services. How many HR people are in corporate services?
It depends what you mean by HR people. As far as leadership goes, there's an HR director, and of course there's a senior VP of HR and a CHRO. But there's also an HR manager and a support staff of senior generalists, and they also do a lot of the support with financed with payroll, benefits, those sorts of things. So all those ancillary things that fall under the HR umbrella typically fall under corporate services. And here's the example. I'm a corporate services employee, but I serve the Armed Forces portfolio.
Which sounds like an HR business partner role. Is that correct?
Yes. As a matter of fact, the company that is looking to purchase us when we go public, they very much deal in the HRBP model.
Okay.
So that's very much correct.
Awesome. Well, I want to get into your role more, but I want to introduce you to people. So can you kind of talk through like your quickly on your Army career, how long you've been out, and your roles since then?
Sure. Real quick, I was a McDonald's manager before I joined the Army. I was 26, so I'm aging myself, and I hated it. Our mascot was a clown, right? I played softball with an Army recruiter, and picture me, Joe Dirt haircut, and I was lamenting the fact that I had to go to work after the game, and because one of the managers had called off and somebody needed to close the store, and I was like, God, I hate this. And he's like, man, you ought to think about joining the Army. And I was like, yeah, I thought about it, but I got to do the haircut and da-da-da-da-da. He goes, man, just think about it. So 30 days later, I showed up at his office, birth certificate, high school diploma, college transcripts in hand. I said, what can you do for me? And he says, what do you want to do? I was like, I want to blow stuff up. So I got to blow stuff up. I was a gun buddy, right? And I enjoyed it. Then I wanted to be a drill sergeant. And I got this purse gram. If you remember purse grams, I got one. It said, you're going to Fort Knox. And I was like, why would they send an artillery guy to Fort Knox to be a drill sergeant? A buddy of mine in the unit said, no, you're going to be a recruiter. Turns out I enjoyed recruiting, but I enjoyed more the improving the processes and the efficiencies behind recruiting and driving towards quantifiable metrics. And it just really kind of drew me in. So the Army was dumb and gave me a bunch of money to stick around. All I had to do was ask, but they offered me a pretty decent bonus. And I was a career recruiter for 15 years.
Wow.
So
yeah, I love it. And I'm going to get into that quantifiable metrics topic later. So you made the decision to get out. I'm guessing, did you do 20 years?
I did 23 years in the Army. Yeah.
Okay.
And
you retired knowing exactly what you were going to do and just kind of
about 2 years, right? about 2 years out, I was in my master's using tuition assistance, which everybody should do. I think it's crazy, but I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and had one of the counselors at the college I was going to saying, what are you trying to do with this degree? And I was like, I don't know. And she was like, well, what do you like? And it wasn't that I liked people. I do like most people, okay, just be honest. But I liked processes that take care of people, that are repeatable processes, that serve the company or the organization well to take care of teams that impact the bottom line. She goes, that's HR. And I was like, I always thought HR was the principal's office. And to her credit, she said, well, at some places it still is. And that's how I sort of landed. And most HR professionals stumble into the profession. Yeah. And really, I sort of stumbled into it just by asking questions.
Yep. And it's exactly like being a first sergeant, right?
Can't do a lot of this.
No knife hand?
There's no knife hand. There's no smoking people. There's some similarities, but for as many similarities that there are complete divergences from what as a leader in the Army, at least for formal HR.
Yeah, no, I agree. I said that intentionally because I thought I wanted to go HR. I thought I wanted to, take care of people and improve the bottom line. And then I started talking to HR professionals. I was like, ooh, I'm going to get the company sued. Yeah. I can't be HR. So I'm too direct. And so I pivoted. And thankfully, HR consulting was great because they're paying you to tell them what's wrong.
Yes.
And how to fix it. And all I had to do was be nice when I told them that stuff. So It worked out really, really well. We got a long question here, I think. So
okay.
Mike says, as a Marine Corps veteran with experience in recruiting and navigating the transition to the military, I'm now looking to move into an internal HR or talent acquisition role. This conversation is one he's been excited about. I love it. Well, you'll have a great opportunity to follow up after this with Gary, Mike. And I told people at an event with Sam and Ray Domingo last night, they had about 80 people on an event. And I said, the key to any networking is follow up.
Absolutely.
So I would encourage anyone listening to follow up with Gary. And if you're interested in franchises, follow up with Lucy Robinson over at Veteran Service Brands. Our old teammate, old as in she was previously, not that she is old, that moved over to Veteran Service Brands, one of our partners, and is really helping people find great careers in franchises. Veteran Service Brands. So, all right, Gary, so you're in the military. 2 years out, you're going for your master's degree. You're talking to mentors, and they say, hey, what you want to do is HR. So where did you, the actual transition itself, was it smooth? Was it hard?
It was.
Your dream job right out the bat?
No. Reflectively, 10 years later, after retirement, it's easy to look back and say it was smooth. But I've worked with, did informational interviews, and been connected with so many people that have transitioned as well. And the key thing for me was, really get in touch with local SHRM groups, not big SHRM, local. get to meet people, ask questions, most of which had no real understanding of what the military was about. Right. What are your pain points? What does your day-to-day look like? Why do you do what you do? What do you enjoy? What do you not enjoy? And it felt like I talked to 100 people.
Yeah.
By the time I got done to about to 90 people, I was like, okay, yeah, I think I can do this for a living, make a good living, and grow a career.
Mm-hmm. And so what was your first job? How did you get your first job out of the Army? What was it?
A Hire Heroes resume, which really helped me because my resume was a hot mess.
Hire Heroes USA, right?
Yes, Hire Heroes USA. And that resume got me interviews. And I think in the fifth company that interviewed me, it's now owned by Cummins, the big diesel company. But at the time it was Meritor, and they made truck axles. Mike, I didn't even know making truck axles was a business. Okay.
I just learned that now.
I didn't even know, but we made vocational truck axles for MRAPs and things of that nature too. And it turns out my first manager was his name's Reggie. Still stay in touch with him as much as I can off LinkedIn. Great guy. He's like, I need a strong HR leader for a small manufacturing facility in the middle of nowhere on the border of North Carolina, South Carolina. And I was like, I need to cut my teeth. This sounds perfect. And off I went. And it was called HR supervisor, but I didn't have any direct reports. I was in charge of both HR and EHS, which is environmental health and safety.
Yeah.
At this
I remember
building.
This now.
It was a small team, but I was able to learn things like how to lead employees through open enrollment, how to reconcile payroll, how to schedule flu shots for the team. Just the little things that I wasn't really used to in a civilian setting. So it was really the springboard that helped me decide where I wanted to go with my HR career and what I needed to learn, what my gaps were.
And was this the company that used to do the walkabouts and show us the factory machine?
No, that was at Ball. That was at Ball Corporation, the same company that makes. They're in aerospace too, but makes Ball mason jars. That was at the outset.
The second company, Ball.
Yes, and that was we made steel cans, so like Lysol cans, and we were making Lysol cans during the pandemic. So Imagine how busy we were. We cannot make enough. There was not enough steel in America for us to make enough Lysol cans.
Whoever's still there should have been doing those videos after you, because I couldn't stop watching them.
Oh, they
walk around and highlight an employee and what their role was and the machine they were working on, and I was just like, "Oh my God, it's so cool!" Like,
you want to know the magic, the real magic behind that? That is engagement. Engaging with your employees and showing them and letting them show off their talents, their skills, and the things that for some of them it took them years to learn how to do. They appreciate that more than a pay raise. They appreciate that more than a free t-shirt. Hey, I want to do this. I'm, a small grain of sand in LinkedIn, but I want to show them what you do because I think it's amazing. So
I love it. I will say that is industry dependent because, in my first two careers out of the military, if HR ever got involved in my team's business without me calling them first, I would have lit them up. Stay out. If they, like when I was at EY, HR one time got involved and I'm like, what are you doing? Get out of here. They're client serving. They work for me. Yep. I'll call you when I need you.
Yep.
And so I say this because, I thought when I was getting out that HR was going to be about, going out and trooping the line, going out and being amongst the people and finding out, what everybody does and how do I make them better and happier and all that. And that was what I thought the primary role of HR leadership was. And it's not, is it? Like,
no.
What is the primary role of HR?
The primary HR for me, and you could talk to guys like Don Herman and Charity Hughes, and they would all have probably variations of what HR is, but HR is the guiding light, the goalposts of people, operation, processes in the organization. Okay. It doesn't say take care of people. It doesn't say take care of the organization. It says guide the people processes. Sometimes it is taking care of the person. Sometimes it's taking care of the person. Sometimes it's taking care of the organization. And sometimes it's taking care of the organization. Everything's dependent, but it's not at a table set up at the AUSA conference. There's a whole separate group of people that does that. Probably. It's not walking the line and leading by walking around. It's monitoring people, processes, and the KPIs associated with them, or OKRs, depending on how your organization's set up.
Yeah. I think for me, when I think of HR's number one priority is make sure the company doesn't get sued. And then 2 is make sure everybody has pay and benefits.
Yes.
And paid on time, benefits are taken care of. And then everything else of that is instituting the processes that take people through their journey at that company more effectively.
Yes.
And being able to tie that to our KPIs, like ROIs on to show that you're retaining people and that you're, hiring the right people. All that falls under it, but that's my take on it. So, all right, let's get back to, because we could talk all day. So Army recruiting, first sergeant, then you went to Meritor, which is Axles. How long were you there?
A year and a half. And if you looked at and I encourage everybody to do it, because I'm the example of, and me and Dan Horgan have talked about it before, I would be the example of probably a job hopper, but I was looking for growth. But most of my roles, until I moved down here, I didn't have to apply for. Once I got into the industry, once I got to know people, once I got to create partnerships, you get plucked. Plucked. And I grew by responsibility. I grew by employee base, went from 80 employees to 250 employees, from 250 employees to 500 employees, from 500 employees to 1,000 employees. And why is that important? Because you're exposed to different aspects of strategic and transactional HR. The bigger the organization, the different ways it's layered, the different organizational structure, and by default, the needs of the employee. So those were all growth oriented.
And I think that's the key is there's this study that says that we leave within a year, or like 70% leave within a year and a half. And some people paint that as a negative, but what it is often it's we get promoted. My first job, I lasted a year and 2 days, and I got a huge promotion to go over to Ernst & Young as a senior manager at the executive level. That was a financial huge promotion. It was a status promotion. It was a brand promotion. It was a responsibility, everything. So, there is a lot of opportunity. I do want to point out that the Gary Steensgard brings Chef Robert Irvine. I don't know if you remember, if you know Chef Robert Irvine. Look at this. He just commented on the post. So Chef Irvine, thank you so much.
Thank you.
He does the Restaurant Impossible. He's one of the biggest supporters of our community. He travels tirelessly around and does a lot of the health and food for our soldiers on base. So thank you, Chef Irvine. We're excited to have you here. Now, Gary, all right, so Axles. Then you went to making Lysol cans. And then what? Was that Amazon?
No, then I went from there, from Lysol cans to Amazon.
Yeah. So you went to Amazon after Lysol cans.
It was Amazon. You had to go. When they say we want you, you go, right?
Yeah. So how was that? So there's more people. How was that? I remember you. I'm not going to say it. I don't know if you get to sign a non-disclosure. So
no, I didn't. I didn't. But
wasn't there a thing where like the employees got an app where there was every employee got said, "Do you like your boss today?" Or "How do you feel about your boss today?"
Yeah. Yes.
And then if you got too many people on their team so they didn't like their boss had got called to HR.
Yeah, we had to come up with mitigation plans to improve their engagement and connection processes with their teams. Okay, that's the HR speak, right? But it was not originally designed to be a metric against which they were measured, but it became a metric against which they were measured. But Amazon was so innovative to me and so eye-opening to me because they set a data point to everything we did. There was nothing that didn't have data to support it. And if you didn't have data to support it, it wasn't important. And that really opened my eyes to the power that lies within data and some of the deceit that can lie within data. And you have to be able to draw that balance. And I learned so much from them. And obviously, such a super successful company. I was honored to be exposed to them because, again, it really, really taught me a lot.
And what I hear from people, and I think it's similar to the way it is for the Big Four, is if you work in that kind of an organization, that kind of a company for a year, year and a half, 2 years, that launch pads your career elsewhere, not just because you were successful in that organization, but the amount that they subject you to grow you over the time, the speed. I'm assuming you weren't just, showing up and chilling out 40 hours a week, like not at Amazon.
No.
Always improvement and engagement and employees. You probably have some good stories that you can't tell us now.
We had 3,200 employees. In a good week, we would terminate 60. So imagine, processing terminations for 60 employees during a week. And again, that's a good week. But a lot of the roles were transitory jobs in nature, right?
Mm-hmm.
These weren't career-minded people. These were perhaps students, maybe people working in the early stages of what we call a gig economy now.
Mm-hmm.
But you still had to process. You had to do all the administrative, drivers behind that process, and eventually tell people you're fired. And doing that 60 to 120 times a week is soul crushing.
Yeah. What were your metrics, your most important metrics when you were at Amazon as an HR professional?
Turnover, number one.
Yeah, like how many people? But
how many people can we reasonably lose and replace without negatively impacting the P&L for the location for an employee base this size, based upon the amount of sales and product turnover we're doing? A good number was 3%.
Okay.
A good number was 3%. Anything below 3%, that's a good week. But you still had to understand, how did you get there? And you had to be able to talk to it every single week in accountability meetings. Hey, here's our metrics. This is what they are. Here's why they are. And here's what we're currently doing to either continue improving or mitigating issues. But you had to speak to that every week.
And you are responsible for that.
Yes.
Without having direct authority over the people being terminated. So you had to kind of work across the area managers and the operations managers to get their buy-in.
That's right.
And for them to be willing to accept your advice and counsel on how to better engage.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And so I love it. I've seen the growth in you. After Amazon, you went to making saw blades, right? Wasn't that the next one?
Yeah. It was it's sort of what led me here, but we made high precision custom carbide cutting tools for precision manufacturing. And most of that precision manufacturing was in the aerospace industry. And most people don't know carbide's the second hardest cutting surface in the world. And what the technicians still do there is amazing. And the only reason why I left is we relocated to Alabama. Great company. Metal's a great company.
What was your key metric there?
Again, turnover, attendance. Yes, like calling roll call, right? Flashbacks to first sergeant days. Who's here? How often are they here? Who's missing? Why are they missing? What shift? Is it linked to a specific supervisor, etc.? And drawing all that analysis. Was in charge of, payroll errors. That was a metric. How many payroll errors, if any, did you have? Timely enrollment and submission and accurate submission of performance management. And we also did internally recruited as well. So all the recruiting metrics we were in charge of as well.
They were lucky to have you there, I'm sure. I do remember the belt buckle story. Was that at that job?
Yes.
What was that story real quick?
An employee came to me. You're talking about the guy who wanted to be the fork truck driver, right?
Yeah. The guy, and he said something about belt buckles, and it was so unique that you got him.
Yeah, he the really cool part of the story is he was a appliance salesperson at Lowe's, and he met our plant manager at the time, Ricky Cashin, who's probably one of the salt of the earth, greatest people in the world, just a good man. And he wrote me a letter saying, hey, I'd really like an opportunity to learn what you all do at that facility because I'm sick of selling refrigerators. I met your boss at Lowe's. He seems like a great guy. And I just want an opportunity to see what you all do and make a difference. I reached out to him via text and I was like, meet me here at this time. Ended up hiring him. Great employee. And proof positive, you don't know how you impact people. You just don't know until you try it, right?
So where's the belt buckle come in?
I don't even remember that portion of the story.
I thought somebody wrote you a letter and said like, I have a belt buckle collection or something.
Oh like yeah, that. He had the world's most magnificent cowboy belt buckle collection, and he roasted his own exotic coffee beans. And I kid you not, every month he would bring me a little bag of, you need to try this. And I'm like, I'm going to pass a drug test if I get caught up on a random, right? And he's like, yeah, it's not that. And just a great guy. And as of 2 years ago, was still at that building.
I love it. And then bathroom breaks were not allowed on late hour shifts at Amazon. I'm guessing that's false. According to Amazon policy. What's the HR answer on that, Gary? Come on.
I'm going to give you the HR answer on this. As long as the associate is making their rate, whether they're picking, packing, or stowing or shipping, they can do whatever they want.
There you go.
It's legal, moral, and ethical. That's the key. They got TVs that show you where you are at your rate. As long as you're hitting those rates, you're good.
I knew we'd get a good HR answer there. Now you're at Blue Halo. Yes. I know you explained what the company. What is your HR job? And we've got about 2 minutes. What do you really do as an HR manager, HR business partner for those 3 programs in that portfolio?
Full spectrum customer service for all the employees of the Armed Forces portfolio, whether it's an investigation, whether it's assistant coaching or mentoring and performance management.
What kind of investigation?
Any sort of employee relations investigation there is, whether it could be a creation of a hostile work environment, not getting along with coworkers, could be, showing up late for work, billing hours incorrectly, those sorts of things. But very little of that here. Most of what's here, it's coaching and mentoring and guiding and good performance management processes, to everything from that simple to tracking turnover, tracking headcount, making sure that onboarding and offboarding goes smoothly, that everything is put to a data point, and we're seeking out and looking for trends to improve the employee experience.
What about the payroll handles out of HR, corporate services, and everything else?
Payroll falls under finance. If I need something from payroll, I just send them a trouble ticket.
Yeah.
And Helen and Diana are rock stars, and they take care of it.
And benefits and compensations outside of you as well?
It is. It's really adjacent to us. Yeah. And Brooke leads that team. And even HRIS, in my previous role, I had to manage our HRIS system. We have an HRIS team. So again, that organizational structure of where you're landing is really, really critical to see where you may or may not fit in the HR team.
I love it. Well, we've got about a minute left. So maybe 23 seconds, but we're going to go a little over. So what I want to do is give you a minute or so to kind of like, for anyone that is considering going from the military into HR, what is your advice to them?
Number one, if you've done 100 informational interviews, you need to do 110. I pride myself on talking people out of HR more than into HR, because they think they know, I want to take care of people. Taking care of people is all part of it. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you have to do things that are very, very uncomfortable in the HR world. So informational interviews are critical. Informational interviews with people in different industries and different functions in different industries is very important too. How quickly will you be able to grasp the language of the finance team in the GovCon space? How quickly will you be able to grasp the QA QC portion of manufacturing and their language? Because you have to partner with them. You have to, that's what your job is. It's not just to fix time cards. It's not just to fire people. It's not even just to onboard people. It's all of that. Mm-hmm. And the more of a bigger picture that you get, the more you open your aperture, the more of the shop picture you can see. And then you'll be able to decide, is it for me or is it not for me?
Right. I love it. My typical advice to people from an HR consulting side, not quite the same experience as Gary, but as a business owner, is that if there is no business, there are no employees. And so HR has to protect the business. And that's where some of the uncomfortable conversations go. HR has to understand, what are their performance metrics to show that they are providing the amount of support to the company. And so when I talk to people that go into what we would call cost centers, you're not driving revenue to the business. So if you didn't show up for work for 1 week, would the company know? And if the answer is no, then you're not engaged as much. You're not learning the things that Gary's talking about. And you got to find a way to do that. And so when you can show that value, that ROI to the company, and you could do the things you love. And I think veterans are very well positioned if they're open to learning the data points and getting into like employment law, labor law, all the different state laws and state registrations. If you're open to getting and learning all that, because the one thing that I'll say that most veterans, especially mid-level veterans and higher, are good at is having uncomfortable conversations.
Yes.
It's not as easy for many people in the private sector. And I think that's where coming from the world's best professional development program in the U.S. military, the leader development program, teaches us to have those hard conversations, performance evaluations, and setting realistic expectations and goals aligns perfectly. So, Gary, if anybody wants to reach out to you for more information, they can connect with you on LinkedIn.
Please do. I encourage it. I'm not a guru, but I've seen a thing or two. I've learned a thing or two, and I like to think I know a thing or two. And I'll be glad to assist as much as I can.
Yep.
I'm here at your needs.
And I will share to everyone here. Gary made a comment earlier about me being plucked to each role. If you look at Gary's posts over the last couple of years, there will not be a doubt in your mind that he is an HR expert. And he will not say that. But when I think of HR, I think of Gary, and that's because he's engaged and shared his expertise with everyone freely. And so consider that when you're thinking about your next steps and how you're branding yourself. Gary, thanks as usual. I will make it out there. You have good taste. Your wife is an Eagles fan.
She is.
See Randall Cunningham's jersey right there.
She's my heart.
I will make it down to Huntsville. We will have to have that happy hour again.
Of course.
And thank you so much for your time. And thank you to Blue Halo for giving you the time to participate in this.
I couldn't be happier where I'm at. And thank you for giving back to our community always like you do. I really appreciate that.
We're on the same page, Gary.
All right.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.